Hello and welcome to this section, Ansible Playbooks Introduction. In this section, we'll learn about YAML, the playbook language, and how we can use this effectively. Next up is Ansible Playbooks, where we will review the sections that commonly make up a playbook. We'll cover the various ways in which variables can be used in Ansible. We'll look more closely at facts provided by the setup module and how we can create our own custom facts. We'll use Ginger 2 for templating. And finally, we'll take this knowledge and create and execute Ansible playbooks. We'll work on a project where we'll configure the popular Nginx web server on Ubuntu and CentOS and template the deployment of a web application. Within this, we've also got some fun lined up with some secret Easter eggs that we'll include in our project. Join me in the first video of this section, YAML. YAML is a data-oriented language. We're going to take a look at the structure of YAML files. We'll see how indentation works with YAML and the rules that apply. We'll try out different ways of using quotes and the advantages and disadvantages to each. We're going to take a look at multi-line values and how YAML accommodates the different options. We'll look at how true or false can be represented in YAML. Finally, we're going to be looking at lists and dictionaries. Up until now, we've used the Ansible command and have shown that whilst this is very useful for ad hoc commands, it can also be an extremely powerful tool when used in combination with an inventory of hosts. We can take the power of Ansible to the next level through the use of its scripting functionality known as playbooks. A playbook allows us to perform many actions across a multitude of systems, using modules like those we've experimented with. Playbooks can be written in both YAML and JSON. Whilst Ansible has compatibility for playbooks written in both markup languages, YAML is the predominant standard. Let's go into revision 1, where we have a convenient tool that we're going to use as we work through this lecture. I'm here in revision 1, and you can start here, or if you're using the hands-on approach, you can start in the template directory. If we perform an ls, you can see we have the utility there, show YAML Python. We also have another file called test.yaml, which is where we're going to be placing our YAML as we go through these examples. If we take a closer look at the shell script, within this is a Python one-liner. This code here will read the content of the test.yaml file using the Python yaml.load module. It will load in the YAML and convert it to Python. It's then using prettyprint to print the Python data in a friendly way, therefore allowing us to see how Python, and indirectly how Ansible, would interpret the YAML that is there within the test YAML file. If we take a look at this test YAML file, YAML files can optionally start with 3 dashes and end with 3 dots. This is not a prerequisite. Personally, I like adhering to the specification, and I've seen this knowledge come in useful when YAML is used in other tools outside of Ansible, where this can be used to signify the start and the end of YAML sections in a single file. As a standard, I recommend the use of these markers. You'll see here there are also hashes for comments that would be ignored by the YAML interpreter. At the moment, Python would interpret this as a none type, as there is literally no content in the file from a Python viewpoint. Everything we have here is syntactical sugar that benefits the user more than it does the interpreter. Let's run our utility and see the output. And we can see there we have a none as the return type. Let's have a look at revision 2. And if we have a look at our test file, we have 2 values, Everything before the colon, i.e. example underscore key underscore 1 and example underscore key underscore 2 are keys, and both this is a string and this is another string are our respective values for each key. If we run our Python utility again, let's see what happens. We can see that we have two keys with different values. Looking at the output, Python is treating these as a dictionary. We know this because of the curly brackets at the start and the end. For those not familiar with dictionaries in Python, as the name implies, a dictionary allows you to look up a value by the key. So, using this in Python, I'm going to create a variable called myvar, and then we use the equal sign for assignment, and then we're going to paste that value above. And now if we print that variable, we can see the entire dictionary. We can also access each entity by its individual key. So for example, and now I'm going to Control D to get out of this. Let's go into revision 3. And we take a look at our next example. We don't always need to quote strings in YAML, but if we do, we can use single or double quotes. In some languages, there's a distinction, but in this case, both of them will appear to Python as a single quoted string. You'll notice here, the first example has no quotes. The second one is using double quotes, and the third is using single quotes. Yet, when we run this, all of the entries are interpreted in the same way. And if we go into revision 4, and look at our next example, here we're including control characters. For example, a new line, which would be an escape code of /n. This is where quotes are of significant importance. If we run our example tool, we can see where we use double quotes, it's shown in Python as expected. If we use no quotes or single quotes, the slash is being escaped by the backslash, as it believes the intention is to use this as part of the string, not as a new line escape code. Go into revision 5. Suppose we have a string that goes over multiple lines. If we specify the pipe symbol at the start of our value, then have the strings on the next few lines, when we run this, we can see that this would have been interpreted within Python or Ansible as a multi-line string, indicated by the /n new line entries within the string. If we were to use this in Python and were to print it, you would see this take effect. Into revision 6. Now suppose we had a very long string, and for neatness, we wish to use multi-lines in our YAML, but we wanted to represent this as a single line in both Ansible and Python. This is where the greater than sign comes into play at the start of our value. If we run our utility, you can see this. Whilst in the YAML, it's actually split over multi-lines, it's actually come out as a single line. Something to note here, we don't have the new line markers within the string, but you can see that right at the end there, it's added a new line, which we may or may not want. YAML, fortunately, has us covered here, and if we take a look at the next revision, revision 7, Here we have an additional minus, essentially stating to remove the last character. If we run this through our utility, you can see there that we have a similar outcome, but this time it's removed the ending carriage return. Go into revision 8. With YAML, integers are automatically interpreted. So, if you take a look at our example, here you can see we have the number 1. There's no string or quotes around it. If we look at how this is interpreted from both a Python and Ansible perspective, we can see that this is directly treated as an integer. And just to prove that this is an integer, we load up Python again. And we create a variable and paste in the value that we have. And if we print the value, and if we run the same command, but this time we're going to add type to show the Python type, and we can see there that this is a class integer in the Python language. Into revision 9. If we quote the integer value, it makes it into a string rather than an integer. Let's go into revision 10. Booleans in programming languages and YAML represent a true or false value. YAML is very versatile with how it can handle Booleans. And here, if we take a look at this revision, we can actually see there in the comments, we've got a breakdown of the various values for false and the different values for true. In this example, I want to implicitly bring your attention to the Y and N, as I've seen many references to this being true or false in YAML. But as you'll see from a Python perspective, when we run our utility, you can see that this is certainly not the case. When using Ansible, you can, however, use Y and N in YAML context to represent true or false. Personally, because of the ambiguity, I choose not to do this, and will typically go for a clear true or false with a capital letter and lowercase. When using Booleans and YAML, as this is a direct one-to-one mapping with its counterpart in Python. Go into revision 11. All of the examples we've seen so far have correlated to that of a Python dictionary, but we can also use a list of items in YAML through the dash character. If we look at this from a Python/Ansible perspective, we see the values inside square brackets, which is a Python list. Showing this directly in Python. Again, I'm going to use my var, and I'm going to assign it the list value. And again, quite simply, we can print this value out. And there we see the entire list. Alternatively, we can also start at position 0 and work all the way through from 0 to 4. If we try to hit position 5, which doesn't exist because of the list starting at 0, we'll encounter an error. And here we're now in revision 12. If you recall from our early example, anytime you start with a key and follow it by a colon, you are creating the equivalent in YAML of a Python dictionary. Whatever comes after the colon is treated as the value. Any subsequent entries are treated as the same dictionary. Whilst we've used this format here, which is the most common format that you'll see for a dictionary in Ansible, it's also possible to use the Python inline method that we actually see as an output using our utility. We go into revision 13 and take a look at our example. You can see that we're using the inline block format as we saw as the output from Python. And again, if we run our utility here, the output tallies up with that of the previous example. I bring this up as you may sometimes see this in other people's playbooks, and it can be quite confusing if you're not aware of it. Personally, I prefer the example which was shown in revision 12. Into revision 14, you can see that it's also possible to use the inline format for lists as per the output that we actually saw in Python. We run our utility. You can see we've almost got an identical output just with the addition of the quotes as it passed through the YAML interpreter. Again, personally, I prefer the non-inline examples for my use cases and only show these variations for awareness purposes. Step into revision 15. Intentionally, we have an invalid example that I wish to show you. You can't have a key value and a list item in the same block in YAML when using either of the formats. This is invalid, and if we try this out with our utility, we will experience an issue. In revision 16, to prove that this also applies to the inline format, if we take a look at our test.yaml file, you can see there we have an inline dictionary followed by an inline list. And again, we run the example, it will error as per the previous. Okay, now that we've shown some of the pitfalls of Ansible, let's get back to some working examples. Go to revision 17. Up until now, all of our examples have been on the same level of indentation, but in this one, we've indented by 2 characters. Indentation is part of the YAML language, and a 2-character indentation is a common practice for Ansible and other uses of YAML. Here we now have a dictionary with the key as example_key_1, and the value is another dictionary with a key of sub_example_key1, with its value sub_example_value1. This is repeated for example_key_2 with its respective sub_example references. Let's take a look at this. We have a direct correlation. This is now a dictionary of dictionaries. The first dictionary is here, here's the keys, and here are the dictionaries as values. In revision 18, a dictionary key can also have a list of values. Here you can see that the top level is a dictionary based on the key with a colon. Then, as the values, we have our list values indicated by the dashes. Item 1, 2, and 3 for the first, and then item 4, 5, and 6 for the other. From an Ansible and Python viewpoint, this looks like the following. The beauty of YAML and the emphasis on YAML being a data-oriented language means we can take these combinations further using the techniques that we've already covered in this lecture. If we take a look at this example, here we have a dictionary consisting of a list of dictionaries, consisting of a list of items. And this translated to Python here, we have the dictionary again consisting of a list of dictionaries which consist of a list of items. Having a good understanding of YAML and how it relates to Python and therefore Ansible gives you a very strong foundation for working with any type of data that you either need to provide to Ansible or need to interpret as the output from a module. We've covered a lot of information with YAML, so let's now put this into play. From here, step into the challenge directory. If you ls in this directory, we have a test utility, but don't have a test.yaml file. Using your favorite editor, create a file with the YAML start and end markers, and then save it. Then, run the utility. If all has gone well, it should output none at this point. And now if we run our utility, we have the none output. Modify the file and create a list of car manufacturers. This should include Aston Martin, Fiat, Ford, and Vauxhall. Again, pause the video and give this a try. And so far, we've got a list of our car manufacturers. Next up, rather than having the entries in the list, let's change these so that they are dictionaries. Okay, and now we can see this as a dictionary, and we automatically have the none type as we don't actually have a value assigned with the key. Alright, so the next step, and you might actually need to go off and do a little bit of research on this yourself. What I want you to actually do is add as key values to each manufacturer a key with year_founded and the value of the year in which it was founded and the company website. Okay, so Aston Martin was founded in 1913. And its website is astonmartin.com. Next up, Fiat. This was founded in 1899. And its website is fiat.com. Ford. This one was founded in 1903. And the website of Ford.com. Lastly, we've got Vauxhall. This one actually surprised me quite a lot. The year founded for this is 1857. And the website vauxhall.co.uk. Okay, let's save that and see how this looks. Beautiful. And the last part of this challenge, I want you to add a key of founded_by with a list of the founder or founders for each respective company. Okay, so Aston Martin. This was founded by Lionel Martin and Robert Bamford. Next, at Fiat. This was founded by Giovanni Agnelli. Ford, founded by the famous Henry Ford. And last but not least, Vauxhall, founded by Alexander Wilson. And again, if we save this and we take a look at our output, we've created a very detailed YAML reference. Okay, great. So as we sign off from this video, I'm going to leave you with some useful resources that I recommend that you have a look at. Whilst we have covered a lot of useful context for YAML, there's a lot that can be done with the markup language outside of this. The YAML specification is listed here. The Wikipedia page is very, very good and it's definitely worth a look. And lastly, the following Stack Overflow thread has comments that go very deep into the different ways of working with multi-lines. Definitely worth a look. Please join me in the next video where we'll apply our knowledge of YAML to Ansible playbooks, starting with a breakdown of the sections within a playbook.